Hi guys, it's me. Um, Told you guys I would give you an update on my essay thing. So this is what I'm doing. This is a rough draft. And yeah, it's about eating disorders. Giving you guys the heads up, so if you don't like the topic, you don't want to hear about it, feel free to leave now. I won't hold it against you. I won't care. I mean, I'd care, but I won't hold it against you. Um, So yeah, without further ado, if I know how to work my computer, here is my essay. Why? That is what most people ask when they find out someone they care about has an eating disorder. The thing is, there's not always a clear answer for that why, or in some cases the answer can't be found until the disorder has been beaten. That's the funny thing about eating disorders. Someone who's fighting it has to actively focus on them and try to rid themselves of it. Even the person with the strongest will can slip and fall, or crash and burn. Some people think that eating disorders are simple, and that there's truly no problem. That's not so. Eating disorders are legitimate psychological disorders, and if they are not treated as such, people who suffer from them will not try to seek treatment. Eating disorders are not just contained to America. They are in a multitude of countries. Just like with other topics, there are many misconceptions about eating disorders that, if not disproven, can be detrimental to those who suffer from them. There are two main eating disorders: anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa. Anorexia is defined as an eating disorder in which a normal weight person, usually an adolescent female, diets and becomes significantly, about 15% or more, underweight, yet still continues to starve. People who suffer from anorexia are obsessed with food. In addition, they tend to be perfectionists. They often see self-starvation as a way to maintain control over their lives. People who suffer from anorexia also tend to have a body dysmorphic disorder, a form of somatoform disorder. A somatoform disorder is a mental disorder that is usually characterized by the symptoms that suggest a physical illness or injury. The symptoms cannot be explained fully by a general medical condition or by drugs and alcohol. Where they believe, wow, that's a long chunk, sorry. They believe they're obese or overweight, and try to change their weight with extreme dieting, so they begin their dive into the disease. Bulimia is an eating disorder characterized by episodes of high-calorie food intake, followed by vomiting, laxative use, fasting, or excessive exercise. Definitions of what an eating disorder is should be easy enough to understand, but the actual thought process of someone who's fighting one and on the losing side is not what some would think. Eating disorders, are what you would think. I mean, at first it's small, one skipped meal here, a tad more exercise there, but then before you know it, they consume your every thought. Instead of thinking about that cute boy in English class, you find yourself focusing on ways to cut back the small amount of calories you are already consuming. You change your ways of thinking to be able to accommodate what you feel is more important than your everyday life. And at first, it seems fine, but when it becomes all-consuming, and it's the only thing you can think of. Oh, but then it becomes all-consuming. Okay. You see, when you're fighting this, it isn't as easy as just eat something and it will all be better in the morning. It's much harder to do than that. When you are losing the battle to an eating disorder, you do not feel sad or depressed. For the most part, you feel perfectly fine, if not great. You feel obese. Like if you lose 10 more pounds, you can truly be happy. There will be no more hurt in your life. That bit contradicts itself a little bit. When it comes to eating disorders, just like any other psychological disorder, there are many misconceptions which need to be proven because unchanged could affect someone's acceptance of treatment that they desperately need. People believe that people who suffer from anorexia are easy to spot because they are noticeably skinny and do not eat. This is false, because there are people who are at a normal weight or obese but are still considered to be anorexic. This is a common stigma when it comes to anorexia, that everyone who suffers from it is really skinny and that it is blatantly obvious that they are anorexic. People think that eating disorders only affect adolescent girls. While they make up the majority of those who suffer from eating disorders, people of all ages and genders suffer from them. There is an idea that once an anorexic has achieved a normal weight, they will be considered normal again. Eating disorders do not go away overnight. It takes years of therapy to even come close to being cured of an eating disorder. Some think that if you have an eating disorder, you will only eat really healthy food when you do eat. That's not necessarily true. If you eat a bunch of candy and little else, you can still be anorexic. Many people with anorexia and bulimia are junk food addicts. There is very little nutritional value in junk food. They provide a false sense of energy. Junk food can satisfy extreme cravings, like if you don't have enough sodium. You would be craving something salty, and a bag of chips could satisfy your craving as well as a meal full of sodium. To be bulimic, you don't have to vomit or use laxatives. There are other methods of purging. A person with bulimia will eat usually large quantities of food in a short period of time, and that is followed by an act of purging or getting rid of. Other methods of purging include, but are not limited to, laxative use, inducing vomiting, compulsive exercise, and compulsive fasting. People think that bulimia is just eating until you feel sick and then vomiting all the food up so you don't gain any weight. And for some it's true, but that's not the most common way of purging. The most common and most unnoticeable way of purging is excessive exercise. People tend to lean toward exercise over vomiting because exercise is seen as a good thing. When done in excess, it's still hard to see how detrimental it can be to one's health. Eating disorders are legitimate psychological disorders. There is more to the problem than them just not wanting to eat. They are not purely driven by Western media, and as such, they affect people in a multitude of countries. For instance, eating disorders are one of the most common psychological problems facing young women in Japan. This shows that it's not just Western media that causes eating disorders. Yes, Western media places excess stress on young women to look a certain way, more like a stick than an actual person. And that could indeed be one of the reasons why American teens feel the need to join sports or go to the gym every day to make it look like they weigh 30 pounds less than they actually do. Media alters images to fit their desires. They airbrush pictures to the point where the person in the picture looks completely different than how they look in real life. The fact that young men and women look at these pictures and what they see quickly becomes their ideal. They want to have a six-pack or be 6 feet tall and weigh 80 pounds, and it is astounding that more people are not worried of what will become of the youth of today. Media does in fact play a large role in eating disorders, but so does socialization with one's peers. Peers have a stronger influence on the lives of children than most would like to acknowledge. Children spend most of their time with their friends than with their parents, and as such, the friends have a strong say in their lives than the adults. The fact that kids and teens spend more time with their friends than their parents is not a new fact, but the idea that their friends can be influencing them into self-destructive activities is a new and terrifying fact that most parents would prefer to ignore. I tried to tell my parents at first, but I figured they wouldn't care. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. really, and it would only cause them to worry more than necessary. So why should I bother telling them if they will just freak out and blame all my friends for it? This is a common thought from those who suffer from an eating disorder. They think that by telling their family, they would just be a bigger burden, and that if they do tell their family, they'll brush it off as nothing. Many people who suffer from eating disorders need professional help to overcome them. Without treatment, up to 20% of people with serious eating disorders die. With treatment, that number falls to anywhere from 2 to 3%. 2 to 3%. Goes from 20 and is now at 2. It's a big gap. With treatment and help, chances of death because of an eating disorder, the health complications that go along with serious eating disorders cannot be fixed overnight, and sometimes they are irreversible. With treatment, about 60% of people with an eating disorder recover and maintain a healthy weight. When you're trying to beat an eating disorder on your own, the chances of recovery is 15%. Some people try to overcome eating disorders on their own because they feel that if they tell their family, they will not like them or will be disgusted with them, and more still feel that they will become a bigger burden to their family because of the extra care that would be needed for them to recover. I tried to recover on my own, and I can tell you this. It's scary and hard as hell. I would never wish something like this on even my worst enemy, because there's so much self-doubt when you start out, then it becomes a conscious effort to eat what seems to be a normal amount of food, but in retrospect is really a minuscule amount. This quote shows how hard it truly is to recover on your own with no help. Eating disorders need to be taken seriously as manic depression. They are far more serious than what society thinks, and therefore should be treated as such. And that's my essay, and the final draft is due on Tuesday. I haven't started. Okay, I love you. I like your face. Don't forget to be awesome. That's why I don't read from scripts, because I sound blah, blah, blah. Cool. Bye!